It is early morning. I feel tired. It's the kind of tired you feel waking up from a long night shift with only a few hours of sleep. But I get up and hurry to the main hospital building. I have to make sure I'm the first one in the operating room so that I can make sure my patient gets the surgery he needs. I get to the main hospital building and enter to the emergency room, which is unusually quiet. Just hours ago it had been hectic, doctors and nurses running from patient to patient. And now the energy is different. I can see the night is ended, but the morning hasn't quite begun. A few doctors still moved around, their gowns wrinkled, their eyes heavy from the night. Patients were sleeping everywhere, some on benches, others on stretchers, and even a few on the floor where space had run out. This is a normal morning at Black Lion, the largest and busiest hospital in Addis Ababa, the capital of Ethiopia. As I move past the entrance, I see a man with a bandage on his head stained with dry blood. He's sitting half awake in the triage area. I walk past him to the back of the room, where I hear a slow hiss of oxygen and beeping monitors. A row of patients lay unconscious, their face covered with oxygen masks. I walk out through the back door to the corridor to make my way to the stairs. In front of me, orderlies were pushing trolleys and oxygen cylinders towards the elevator. I squeeze my way through them and quickly head up to the operating room. Once this place had felt suffocating, too crowded, chaotic, but now I'm used to it. It's part of my everyday life. Despite all the shortages we face and all the messiness, I still consider myself lucky to be training here. I'm in my early stages of pediatric surgery residency, full of conviction and determination. I believe that if I work hard enough, that if I care deeply enough, I could give these children the same fighting chance a child in the US would have. But I also learned this wasn't always true. As I reach the surgical wing, the sun is rising through the windows. I'm walking down the hallway thinking, I'm finally going to get my patient, this 3-day-old boy, the surgery he needs. I get to the operating room, turn the corner, and freeze. I see there's already another patient in the operating table. I quickly look around and realize whose case it is. Yesterday I had this confrontation with the surgeon who took over the OR, but promised my team could go early the next day. He isn't around now, but he sent his team early to occupy the space. I walk back out to the hallway and start pacing. They still haven't started the surgery, so I'm thinking, is there a way I can still convince them? Can I get my patient in somehow? After a few minutes of walking, I circle back and find the surgeon has arrived. He's standing at the door surrounded by his residents. I'm dreading this conversation because I didn't have my attending to back me up. But I had no choice. I had to speak up. My patient stands may depend on it. So I walk straight up to him, my heart pounding, and I start to argue. I thought we had an agreement, I said. My patient was supposed to go first. He doesn't look bothered. He smiles politely and says, but my patient is already inside. You'll get your turn later. I felt my face get hot. It's as if I've been just slapped. He closed all room for negotiation. He knew his conversation doesn't matter. His influence and his seniority would win. I can't control my anger. I shout back at him and I storm off. The people around him fall silent in disbelief. Questioning hierarchy is not common in Ethiopia, let alone raising your voice at a senior. I walk away, filled with frustration. Why isn't he understanding me? We were supposed to be on the same team. Is he really putting his convenience above someone else's life? Practicing medicine isn't supposed to be this unfair. To understand why I was so emotional and desperate that morning, you have to go back 3 days, to when I met my patient. I got a call from the pediatrician asking me to evaluate this newborn with excessive drooling. I go over to the NICU, and there he was, a tiny baby boy, wearing nothing but a diaper. He was put under the heater and breathing through a nasal cannula. I saw saliva pulled at the corner of his mouth and dripped slowly to the pillow beneath him. I immediately knew what this was. This was esophageal atresia, a condition where the esophagus is blocked and it doesn't connect to the stomach. It's an emergency condition anywhere in the world, but in our hospital it carried a heavier meaning. People saw it as a death sentence, not because we didn't know how to treat these children, but because delays often ruin the surgical outcomes. But this baby was different. He was born here. He was hip. He had a chance. This is a kind of golden window we almost never get. So I'm excited. I wanted to take him to surgery immediately, but his x-rays and labs hadn't arrived. By the time everything was ready, it was late in the afternoon, and the anesthesiologist wouldn't let us operate. He said we can't start it, such a difficult case, late in the day. Every hour that passes, I see the baby's breathing is getting quicker. He hasn't been fed since birth. If this continued, I know what would happen. He'd start to lose weight, infection would set in, and surgery wouldn't even be an option. Throughout all this was also his mother, by his side. She sat on a metal chair next to him and gently suctioned the saliva from his mouth. She didn't speak much, but her eyes followed every doctor that passed by. She'd ask softly every morning, "Is today the day?" And every afternoon I would reply, "Not yet." But that day I couldn't go back to the mother. I can't tell her we failed again. I can't see the pain and disappointment in her eyes. So I make rounds and get off early. I'm exhausted and I sleep through the night. The next morning when I arrive, I'm summoned to the department's office. And when I get there, to my surprise, 3 senior surgeons are waiting for me. There was the department head, my supervising attending, and the surgeon I clashed with yesterday. They asked me to take a seat and asked the other surgeon to formally explain what happened. Immediately they started reprimanding me. I tried to explain, to apologize, but no one wants to hear what I had to say. I had been a dependable resident the last 2.5 years. Hardworking, very respectful, committed to my patients, but none of it mattered that morning. I'm given a formal warning. Another incident like this would lead to major consequences. I walk out of that office feeling helpless. None of them even cared what happened to the patient. They only cared I respect the hierarchy. Later that day, I hear that the patient develops an infection and is started on antibiotics. Probably is no longer fit for surgery by now. I continue to avoid the patient and his mother. Over the weekend, I hear his condition worsens. And soon after, this beautiful baby boy, only a few days old, dies. This experience has taught me that patient outcomes in Ethiopia are sometimes affected by rigid principles rather than the urgency of the patient's need. Since that day, I've faced similar situations, but I've learned to stay calm. I've learned I cannot change everything within a system. I've learned my limits. I cannot save every child. But yet, I still wonder, even now, could I have done something more to save that baby boy?